this video we learn the process of completing the square to solve quadratic equations. The first step is write your equation in the form ax squared plus bx, and I want you to leave a blank and take the plus c equals 0 and write it as equals minus c. Then we're going to go through these remaining steps here, and you can read them on your own as you work your way through the notes. But basically this is what I'm going to be asking you to do step by step as we work our way through. So here we go with our first problem. We're going to have x squared plus 8x. We're going to leave a blank, and that minus 3 is going to come to the right as a positive 3. That's step 1, writing it in this form. Step 2, if there's a leading coefficient, we would divide it off of each side of the equation, but there isn't, so we can skip step 2. Step 3 involves cutting the number in front of x in half. That would be the 8, cutting in half to a positive 4, and writing this blank on the line below. Then step 4, square that new number, giving you 16, which we write in that blank on the line above. But when you add 16 to the equation on the left, you've changed the equation, so you need to add 16 to the right side of the equation also. The next step is that of completing the square. Step 5. You put the x in front of the plus 4 on the next line, parentheses around it, to get a completed square with that exponent. Notice that x plus 4 times x plus 4, when you FOIL it, gives you the x squared plus 8x plus 16 on the line above. On the right side of the equation, you're just going to add the 3 and the 16 together to get 19. At this point, the problem is just like ones we've already learned to do. We're going to square root each side of the equation. X plus 4 equals, and don't forget that plus or minus sign before the root 19. And then we're going to solve for x and have x equals negative 4 plus or minus root 19. And that's the whole process. And basically now we just need to get a lot of practice, because that's a lot of steps. But what's nice is every single problem is done the same way. So here we go. We note that it's not factorable. We would try factoring it, of course, if it were possible, because that's the quickest way to do it. But we notice it isn't factorable, so we're going to rewrite this, writing a blank in there and moving that 4 to the other side, and it becomes a negative 4. We notice there's no coefficient out in front, so we have nothing to divide through by. It just starts with the x squared. We're going to take the 10, cut it in half to a 5 on the next line, and that 5 is going to square to 25, which we put in the blank on the line above. But adding 25 to the left, we need to add 25 to the right to keep the balance of the equation. And then we're ready to complete the square. Put the x in front of the 5, parentheses around it, quantity squared, and on the right add together to get 21. Now we've got an equation which can be square rooted on each side. We do that. And we don't forget the plus or minus sign on the right when we do so. So we have x plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 21. Now, subtracting the 5 on each side gives you negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 21. And that would be the solution, or those, I should say, would be the solution to the equation. Negative 5 plus root 21 and negative 5 minus root 21. Okay, now we're going to move on to another problem, and the whole idea here is let's just get practice with these quadratic equations. We notice it's not factorable, so we say, okay, x squared minus 12x, leave a blank, equals 7. Positive 7 when that negative 7 comes to the right. There is no leading coefficient to divide off, so we take our negative 12, we cut it in half to a negative 6. We then square that new number, negative 6, to get a positive 36, which we write in the blank. Adding 36 to the left, we need to add 36 to the right side to keep the balance of the equation. Now we can put the x in front of the minus 6, parentheses around it, and a quantity squared, and we just take a moment to check that x minus 6 times x minus 6 multiplies to get to the line above. And on the right we add the 7 and the 36 together to get a 43. Now, square rooting each side of the equation, I probably should write a square root symbol there, gives us x minus 6 equals plus or minus, don't forget that, root 43. And we have x equals, adding 6 to both sides, 6 plus or minus root 43. Two irrational solutions, neither of which we probably want to check, but they are checkable if you want to.